Are you ready for a show that the whole family can enjoy? Join us on our fun educational adventures as we discover interesting places, meet amazing people like a pilot, a soap maker, a chocolate maker, and more. That's not all. You will learn about our culture, explore musical instruments, symbols, and clothes, learn all about kente, gather around and listen to our folk tales and discover the interesting history behind our stories.
Wow, this show is really informative.
Yeah. We'll also have fun experiments. Whoa! And lots of art activities.
Look at my spider.
So beautiful.
You definitely don't want to miss the Wonder Space Show with Miss Natalie.
Wonder Space!
Watch the Wonder Space Show on Saturdays at 12 noon only on Channel 1 TV.
Looking for the latest buzz in Ghana's entertainment world? Welcome to Ghana Weekend, your ultimate destination for all things creativity and entertainment.
Stay in the loop with breaking news, exclusive interviews, and then insider stories from your favorite creatives and stars. From music, movies, fashion and art, lifestyle and culture, Ghana Weekend brings it all together. Get a daily dose of entertainment, discover new talents, and never miss out on the creativity that defines our vibrant culture.
Stay connected with us across all platforms. Follow us on Instagram with the handle Ghana Weekend, on X Ghana Weekend, on TikTok Ghana Weekend, at Ghana Weekend TV on YouTube for the latest in entertainment, travel, and everything Ghana. Don't miss out. Join the Ghana Weekend family today. Ghana Weekend, where entertainment meets creativity. Visit GhanaWeekend.com now.
Hello, you're welcome to What the Papers Are Saying. Thank you so much for making time to join us for another edition. We look at the big stories for the week, what made headlines in the various media outlets, whether it's the newspapers, the websites, and what have you. When I come back, I'll take you through the stories that made headlines. I'm Vivian Lokko. See you in a bit. So yeah, welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. Thank you for joining us for today's edition. Let me take you through the big stories for the week. We'll start with the e-levy, veteran tax, and other taxes that have been abolished after the president assented them into law. Let's start with the Ghanaian Times. Let's see how they captured that story. They say emissions, e-levy, veteran tax scrap. President assents to 7 other revenue bills. The Chronicle, Mahama sends to Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025. Daily Guide, Mahama scraps e-levy and veteran tax. Let me take you to citynewsroom.com. Let's see what angles they have around that story. They say, I was targeted by Momo fraudsters, MTN Ghana CEO, obviously around the e-levy reactions following the president assenting that into law. Channel1newsroom.com, Mahama sends to repeal e-levy, veteran tax, and other bills. We'll move away from that story. We'll take you to the U.S. because it has made some decisions which will affect Ghana and some other countries. Let's see how it will affect Africa and, for that matter, Ghana. We'll take you to Graphic Online. They say U.S. tariff hike threatens Ghana's export. Economists urges shift to African market. CityNewsroom.com, Trump imposes 10% tariffs on all countries, including Ghana. City Newsroom, U.S. ambassador reassures Ghana amid trade policy shifts. So those are some stories around foreign affairs as well as trade that will have an impact on Ghana and African countries and some other countries across the world. We'll move away from that. We'll take you to the big story actually for the week, having to do with allegations of drug trafficking and money laundering coming from a member of parliament, among others. Let's see how that story was captured and the matters arising from that. We'll start with Chronicle. They say alleged cocaine and money laundering at KIA. Mahama breaks out in a cold sweat, directs all security apparatus to probe report. How did Daily Guide capture that story? Okay, let me rather take you to the Ghanaian publisher. Minority raise alarm over money laundering and drug trafficking. The Herald says Mahama orders probe into Kotoka Airport cocaine trafficking claim. CityNewsroom.com, Mahama orders probe into alleged drug trafficking via suspicious flights at KIA. And finally, on that story, let me take you to channel1newsroom.com. It says, we will maintain zero tolerance for drug trafficking in Ghana. This is Mahama speaking. So those are some stories around that big one having to do with money laundering and drug trafficking. We'll move away from that, and the issue of illegal mining is still a big one. It appears every week. It pops up on the top stories list. Let's see what the latest is this week. MyJoyOnline.com, outcry as court orders release of seized excavators to illegal miners. Urgent action required to declare state of emergency. City Newsroom says Enchi magistrate must be surcharged if excavators go missing. This is Ken Ashibe speaking. And finally, on that story, Enchi court backtracks, reverses controversial Galamsey ruling. This story is coming from channel1news.com. We'll wrap up our big stories with that having to do with the detention of a journalist over alleged false publication of the OSP. Let's start with City Newsroom and see how they capture that story. They say, I will sue OSP for wrongful detention. That's Gordon Asare-Bediako speaking over there. And finally, on channel1newsroom.com, it says Gordon Asare-Bediako to sue OSP for wrongful detention. So those are the big stories for the week across board, the websites as well as the newspapers. This is what they've been saying. When I come back, I'll speak to two gentlemen who have been monitoring the big stories as well. They'll bring their perspectives around that and also further discuss the angles captured by the media outlets. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Looking for the latest buzz in Ghana's entertainment world? Welcome to Ghana Weekend, your ultimate destination for all things creativity and entertainment.
Stay in the loop with breaking news, exclusive interviews, and then insider stories from your favorite creatives and stars. From music, movies, fashion and art, lifestyle and culture, Ghana Weekend brings it all together. Get a daily dose of entertainment, discover new talents, and never miss out on the creativity that defines our vibrant culture.
Stay connected with us across all platforms. Follow us on Instagram with the handle Ghana Weekend, on X Ghana Weekend, on TikTok Ghana Weekend, at Ghana Weekend TV on YouTube for the latest in entertainment, travel, and everything Ghana. Don't miss out. Join the Ghana Weekend family today. Ghana Weekend, where entertainment meets creativity. Visit GhanaWeekend.com now.
So you're welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. I am Vivian Lokko. Let me introduce our guests for today to help discuss the big stories. Selam Adono works with us here at Channel 1 TV as well as City 97.3 FM. On Saturdays, he captains the ship called The Big Issue. Selam, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
And every now and then you hear him on Eyewitness News from 5:30 on radio as well. So, great guy. With a lot of great perspective to issues. And also a lawyer. So, welcome.
Where did I sleep? Where did I sleep?
You tell us, where did you sleep?
I need to sleep there again.
Yes, you have. So that's Salvador. And then also I have in the studio another very interesting chap, Samuel Uyafe. Usually goes by the name Samuel Uyafe. He was our presidential correspondent during the Akufo-Addo era. He's also one of our political reporters with a lot of vast experience around politics. Sami, welcome.
Hi, Vivian.
As well.
Good evening.
Good evening. You won't say where did you sleep, or the introduction was modest.
It's okay for me.
So, gentlemen, welcome. It's been an interesting week. I think the big story for the week that we've seen has to do with the money laundering and the drug issue. So, if you permit me, I want us to start with that. One of big interest to the public because of the implications if that is really the matter. We've had a back and forth with the majority and the minority over what really the issues are, what is happening, and all that. The gentleman who triggered the issue having to do with the cocaine bid is the Honorable Ntim Fodjo. After that press conference he held, we've had persons in government as well as persons from the majority side of parliament speak to the issues and actually dispel some of the things he said. So let me start with you, Sami, on the number of issues that have come in. If you look at the Chronicles story, for example, they say that Mahama breaks out in a cold sweat, directs all security apparatus to probe that report made by Ntim Fodjo. And then also you have the original story, which is a minority raising alarm over money laundering and drug trafficking. When you heard Ntim Fodjo make that press conference and telling the whole world about some of these developments, cocaine, money laundering, ships coming, flights coming to Ghana, pretending to do one or two, passing through transit points, and all the words we hear around drug issues and money laundering, what hit you first?
It was alarming in the first place to hear a member of parliament make such, huge statement or such allegations. Not just any member of parliament, he's a ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee. And so if anything like this is coming from him, you might at all want to know that indeed he's coming from a place where he has his own source of information. For him to hold a press conference and bring out such allegations, if you want to put it that way. And the two issues that he's raising, money laundering and drug trafficking, these are huge, issues. And I'm not sure any country will want to associate itself with any of these two.
Yeah.
Because countries are blacklisted across the world over such allegations. And so if a whole member of parliament will make such allegations, something that calls for a bit of worry. The more reason why the president himself intervened and directed the security chiefs to, meet Dr. Reverend Ntim Fodjo, former Deputy Education Minister, to have a conversation with him over these allegations that he made in this particular press conference. But if you hear him, speak subsequently, he said these are no allegations. he has, information to that effect, to the extent that he even has, the tracker and then the flights that he alleged, landed at the Kotoka International Airport, and he gave vivid description of these particular flights and why they stayed on the tarmac for a number of days, before moving out of the country, and raising suspicion as to the core motive why, these airlines or these aircraft landed in Ghana, waited all these years. One of them, he says that he stayed in Ghana for 6 days. Another one, he says, stayed for 15 days. And so he's raising, suspicion about these particular
but
issues.
There's some, I spoke to one of the members of the committee, the Honorable Ernest Norway, who said that, these concerns, he's part of a committee and he should have shared this information, and then also he has access to these security
so
people.
It's in two parts, the politics of it, first of all, and then the security aspect of it. I suspect, or I believe that the Reverend Forjo wanted to do the politics of it, because money laundering and drug trafficking is big, and it will paint any government black. And so this is an opposition member of parliament, and you expect him to play politics with it, and then in a way to make the opposition look good and make the government look bad, because they just left government. They feel that there were certain actions and inaction of the then opposition that made the government feel bad. And so more or less like time to retaliate or pay back time. And so he want to do the politics with it. On the security side, I believe, or I support what Ernest Nobe said, that these are very sensitive issues. You could have discussed, there was a committee members, and for committee members to take it up to the appropriate authorities. So maybe the national security or the NBI or any other, individuals or any organization to look into it. And so that one is there. President ordered, these heads of these organizations to engage him on it. Just this evening, before we came on air, I saw a video on the wall of Phyllis Kwachio Fosu, Minister of State for Government Communication, extensively, alleged, how will I put it, downplaying these allegations raised by Dr. Ntim Forjo, that he peddled falsehood, even though he confirmed that these two aircraft that Reverend Ntim Forjo
claims they came in, did come in.
Indeed, Phyllis Kwachio Fosu confirmed that these two airlines landed in Ghana, but he gave descriptions to them. Now, he says that one of them had engine problem, and so had to land here and get it fixed. He says the other one, which was the air ambulance, also had a tie problem. And so he also landed here in Ghana and had to also get a tie fixed before they left Ghana eventually. Is your word against, two people peddling, where? So as to who to believe, we do not know. He also mentions that Dr. Ntim Forjo refused to make himself available to
by the agencies.
As
directed
by the president. Reverend Ntim Forjo refused to make himself available, and so he's questioning that if you have this sort of information and you want to help government deal with it, why would you not make yourself available to the authorities, to come and question you on this matter? Just before we came on air again, Ntim Forjo has also issued a statement denying ever being contacted by the heads of these agencies as the president has directed. And even goes on to confirm that his allegation of the two aircrafts, as he described in his press conference, have been indeed confirmed by the government spokesperson or the Minister of State for Government that they came and landed in Ghana. And he says that the justification and the excuses Phyllis Kwachio Fosu is giving leaves much to be desired, because they are inconsistent, and there's more to it than this. And so for him, no one has reached out to him. He's available to cooperate with any of the state agencies who will reach out to him to help investigate this matter. And so for him, he's available. He's made the allegation. He has every cause to believe that these aircraft landed in this country and engage in the 2 allegations that he made at this particular press conference. And so as Felix were against that of Reverend Inti Forjo, but even we should take every step to investigate this matter because drug trafficking is not a joke. Because just a week or 2 weeks ago, we saw a story. We were told of how cocaine worth $300 million was or were busted here in Ghana. Beginning of this year, there was a story at Sapema where a container filled with gold and cash and those things. We never heard anything about it again. So today we are still waiting for the briefing from the state agencies who are involved in this matter. So we should take this matter very, very seriously. And money laundering across the globe is a headache to every government. Governments or countries have been blacklisted. And there are a lot of people who have said that people use other businesses to engage in money laundering, as they call it. They wash the bad money with clean money. So it looks like it's genuine money, but then there's something really behind it. And I expect government to take the extra steps to investigate this matter. If there's a need to name the individuals who are involved, we should do that and then make the country safe. Because if you are blacklisted, I'm someone who travels a lot. If you are blacklisted, traveling outside is always a difficulty. It's always a difficulty for you. Oh yeah. You get to some airports. Oh yes. You get to some airports, and the kind of passport you hold will determine the kind of queue you join.
The treatment.
The treatment you are given. And so if these stories come in, we shouldn't take it lightly. We should investigate them.
Okay, let's bring in Selim. It's been an interesting week, back and forth. This said, I said, what said, and all that. 2 issues. This is a story on money laundering, story of drug trafficking. It should be of interest to everybody. No big deal if a member of parliament blows the alarm and brings it to public. Others say, no, this has serious consequences. Let the security services do their work. Where should we stand as a country to get the answers and not pry into waters that we shouldn't?
Well, I don't think an opposition member of parliament will get an information like this and say he or she will pass it on to the government agencies quietly. No, it won't happen. Not in our politics. Not in our politics. NDC, MPP, it won't happen. So it's NDC in power now, and it's the MPP on the other side. So they are doing what they have to do. What is important is issues are raised, issues are investigated, and we know the truth. But the issue of drug is a huge matter. We've seen the cases of MV Benjamin. We've seen cases where cocaine is turned to coconte and a whole lot of things, right? What it means, or what the point really is that drug or cocaine is a very dangerous drug. You don't want your country to become a place where this drug plays. You don't want to be the transit point. You don't want to be the end user point. So whatever it is that mentions cocaine, we have to investigate that thing. So yes, it's a great thing. The member of parliament blew the alarm, and I hope he really has substance. It's not just saying it. I hope he really has substance, so that when he's called, he will not say, "Oh, this person told me," or "that person told me." He will be able to assist with some concrete evidence. For me, I don't think it's a difficult thing to find out at all. Indeed, 2 flights came to Ghana, and now we're hearing that one came on an engine problem, the other also came on a tire problem. Whatever that is. Once they came to Ghana, there should be records on what they came to do. And we should be able to see those records and put the matter to rest. If they came, if they came to discharge or to exchange something, we should be able to tell. The airport is a security zone. We should be able to tell if indeed we are serious about getting to the bottom of it. The MPs raised the matter. I'm happy President Mahama swiftly issued a statement to say that Ghana will not be a transit point, or Ghana will not be an end user point, and swiftly called on the security agencies to quickly collaborate with the MP to get to the bottom of it. This is what we expect. And we expect that the security agencies will do what is right, will invite the MP, do what is right, speak to him, find out what it is from him. And we also hope that the MP will not be evasive. The MP will also lay his cards on the table, so we get to the bottom of it. In the end, it is Ghana we are concerned about. if indeed, I mean, the two flights, say they went to they came from the same destination, Gran Canaria, and went to the same place. That's quite, an interesting coincidence for me.
Yeah.
If that is true, that's what the MP is saying. If that is true, that's an interesting coincidence. And the two of them also came on very different things. Also quite an interesting coincidence. So I hope that we're able to get to the bottom of this. We do not play the usual politics with it. Once the alarm has been blown, the initial whistle has been blown politically, let the MP now collaborate with the security agencies. Let them put their cards on the table. It's not as if, it shouldn't be like the big man who said, what's the name? Rose Ministry, sell contracts, etc. When they called him, he said, that's what everybody said, that's what goes around. We don't want that kind of thing. Lay your cards on the table, help the security agencies to investigate the matter. That is how we save the country, that's how we save the future. But I hope it's not true. I really hope it's not true, because we do not want this to happen. For the press conference they held was interesting on three key issues. One was on the suspected gold and money matter at the Sapper mine, thing, and on the aircraft money laundering, cocaine, drug trafficking thing, and then the issue about the pirates. All these three issues, very important, very seminal, very, very key as far as the security is concerned. The 12 container matter at the Sapper mine, of course, we expected to hear a bit more after the initial, announcement, initial raid, which saw the content, we saw the content of the container. Some gold bars, some said were fake, others said no.
Yeah.
Some dollar bills in bundles, some said were fake, some said no. But I think the security agencies should at least give us some updates.
Yeah.
They say that they've done the initial one.
Yes.
They are still investigating.
Yeah.
But it's been 2 months.
Yeah.
And given the publicity that garnered, the fact that the national security took media to the place, to video the place, to watch the place, report on it, they did a good job. We all praise them.
Yeah.
I think they don't have to leave us in the dark.
Yeah.
They should give us further update. They said one Alaji was the one in charge or was the owner of the containers. Now Ghana is known for a lot of containers. Was the owner of the containers. Let's see what's next. Even if you've not made any further arrest, tell us that you are on it. This is what you have so far. You have not had much after the first one. Let's know. So it's almost 2 months. Happened around the 9th of February, and today's
3rd April.
Almost 3 months.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 2 months.
2 months.
Let's hear something. They did a good job, but let's not be kept in the dark. Let's know what's next. The issue about the pirates, I didn't think the issue about pirates should have been politicized, because the political twist they put to it was that when the MPP government wanted to buy some vessels for purposes like this, the NDC opposed it, only to hear that those vessels or that came to Parliament in the dying hours of the government's tenure. Nobody will allow that. I mean, MPP wouldn't have allowed it, and NDC didn't allow it. I think we should act with a bit more candor. The issue of pirates is a national security matter. When we do things like this, it does appear that tomorrow, if a terrorist action happens in Ghana, a certain section of Ghanaians will be happy. I don't think we have to get there. That's a lot of cynicism. We have issues about pirate, terrorist attacks, etc. We have to be united and fight them as a united front. The issue about the drugs, etc., we have said it. We don't want it. Government should collaborate with the MP and get to the bottom of it. The supplement one too, we need to hear something. But the pirates, we need to be a bit careful, because the security people, the bad people may be watching to see what loopholes exist. We do not have to wash our dirty linens in public, because we don't have the machinery, we don't have the gadgets to fight them. So that's why they are coming, because you refused to pass the agreement to buy the vessels. I don't think that is appropriate in this sense at all. Okay,
we'll see how all those stories pan out, especially because there's still the back and forth over whether the Reverend Ntim Forjo has been invited by security forces to answer to certain questions, and whether he refused to go. And then also Ghanaians demanding some news over the Sapperman issue, for example. So we'll see how that goes.
So, of course, they also talked about the $350,000 cocaine that was busted around the Cape Coast. There are always interesting sides to this. It is a fact that if you if you are strict on it, you will be, in the first few months or just when you begin becoming strict, there will be a lot of busts. So do we say that
was what happened?
That is what is happening, or on the other hand, if you are loose in your fight against drugs, they will start coming in, and you begin to hear a lot of these.
Yeah.
Is that what we are seeing? That's the question.
Yeah.
I really hope not, and I hope that, and I'm even happy that these things have happened in the early days, so that if it is the strictness, we continue to be strict, so that they know this is a no-go zone. Yeah. If it is the looseness, we don't want it. Then they need to tighten things to ensure that we do not see these things at all. I mean, yes, we've seen cocaine every now and then, but we do not want it in the country. So we hope that our security agencies are up to the task. You know, the way they busted the one in Cape Coast, kudos to them. They should do more. And the intelligence should be top-notch so that we don't have this in our country at all.
Okay, so this is what the papers are saying. I'm Vivian Lokko. I'm here with Stella Madonu as well as Sami Wiafe. We're looking at the big stories for the week just gone by in our discussions having to do with money laundering, issues of drug trafficking, among others. We'll take a quick one, but when we come back, we'll look at stories around the Galamsey fight, the latest to do with a court coming up with the first rule after public backlash changing its ruling on a particular matter. We'll look at that. And then later, we'll look at the detention of one of our own. I'm talking about a journalist. We'll look at what, that means and what really happened. You want to stay with us? We'll be right back.
Life is a celebration of moments. Big and small.
The sun is scorching, I'm feeling the heat.
With Piva Drink, every moment becomes a refreshing celebration. From the beach to your home, in every corner of your world, Piva Drink adds a burst of refreshment.
Give me Piva cocktail and tangerine.
Celebrate every moment with Piva Drink. Refreshment for every occasion. Piva Drink, a taste you will love.
P for Piva.
This advert is FDA approved.
So welcome back to what the papers are saying. I'm Vivian Lokko. I'm here with Stella Madonu as well as Sami Wiafe. Let's take you to our big stories. Let me give you an idea of what that story is about. I'll take you to My John Online. This is how they reported that story. They say outcry as court orders release of seized excavators to illegal miners. Urgent action required to declare state of emergency. And then when you go to citynewsroom.com on that same story, their angle was entry magistrate must be surcharged if excavators go missing. This is Ashibe speaking. And then Channel 1 Newsroom captured it this way. Entry court backtracks, reverse controversial Galamsey ruling. So basically, the court had a ruling earlier to allow for the excavators to be moved back to the owners. And then there was a lot of backlash from the public. And then they changed that ruling. What does this say on our fight against illegal mining and the judiciary's actions around that in helping solve the issue of illegal mining? Sami Wiafe, this was a very interesting, this happened, the next thing, minds changed, the next thing, rulings reversed.
It tells you the power of the people. It tells you if we are collective in our drive, in our fight against Galamsey, I'm sure definitely we'll get somewhere, because right after this particular order by the magistrate, the fire started coming. The social media, everybody started talking, and he was forced to, go back to his words and do the needful, which a lot of people have heard. But then again, you then look at how crucial and important the judiciary is in the fight against illegal mining. I've heard the current Minister for Land and Natural Resource say that one of the handing over notes that came before him, you know, when the previous administration was leaving, was that over 850 Galamsey or illegal mining cases were in the court. And out of this number, only about 35 people have been prosecuted.
Yeah.
You know, so far, leaving a gap of over 700 and something people who are supposed to go through prosecution for getting involved in Galamsey. There are two things here involved. Either the justice system is slow in the prosecution, or those who are supposed to prosecute are not or do not have the willpower to prosecute. Yeah. There are two things involved. And looking at what has happened in recent time with this Enchi thing, it gives me the understanding that the people who must help in this prosecution are not helping.
Yeah.
It's the conclusion for me. Because if we arrest the individuals and the equipment, and then a judge will order that is given back to the Galamseyers, as they say in Chi, then what are we doing then? Because it's this same excavator that is causing the destruction in the forest. It is not the pig house and the rest. It's this same excavators. And I saw a document, you know, last week, where it says that the second topmost things we import in Ghana is excavator. Yeah. Yes. And I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
Really?
Second.
Second.
Wow. So these are all in the forest, or
these are all landed in the forest.
Constructing.
These are all in the forest.
We don't see them on the roads that much.
These are all in the forest, causing destruction to our forest. I was excited when the last minister, he addressed a press conference today.
Which you attended.
Which, yes. And I was excited when he mentioned that, you know, so far, 7 of these forest reserves have been reclaimed. So he described it as yellow. It means it's come back, but not in a good state. And so over years or over the time, it will come back to its natural state.
So when they say reclaim in this fight against Galamsey, they stopped the people
they've sacked all the Galamseyers from
but it's
this
not that they've corrected all the damage.
They've sacked the Galamseyers from these
they should just say they sacked the
forest reserve. And so government has taken control of it with the help of the Forestry Commission and the rest. So government is in the custody of government, and so they are focusing on other, you know, forests where they must, you know, protect. And he described these individuals involved in Galamsey as terrorists, which I agree with him. And so a colleague journalist asked a follow-up question, that if you are describing these people as terrorists, then how do we deal with such people? Are we going to adopt the shoot to kill policy? And he was hesitant in answering that particular question. The issue of human rights and the rest came in, and the rest.
The issue about the blue, is it blue marine? Are they the ones who are going to fight?
It also came up, and the explanation he gave was that they are not supposed to be in the forest.
So where would they be?
They will be on the water bodies, and they are training them in swimming. So he gave an instance that I think a day or two ago, a policeman drowned.
Yeah.
Because it's not a job of a policeman to even chase Galamseyers in water bodies, or may not be in a position to know how to swim. That is why it's happening. So that is why they are training the water guards who are undergoing training in swimming.
But shouldn't they have people who already know how to swim and then they upgrade them? Because
the question was asked, what about the Navy?
Yeah.
Because the Navy has been trained in all this, and they are armed as well. So they are in a better position to fight, to deal with these people who destroy, the water bodies. But there was no answer in that respect. What he was said that they were training the water, the blue guards, in swimming, and they are going to help deal with Galamsey on water bodies. But they are not going to be armed. They will work, hand in hand with the Navy in dealing with this, this issue of Galamsey. Vivian, it goes back to what I've always said, and I still maintain my stand. The best way to deal with Galamsey is shoot to kill. I have said, if you go into the forest, first operation, second operation, the third operation, you will find nobody in the forest. Because the people who are sending these young men and women in the forest will be afraid to send innocent people in the forest. And the people who are being sent will also be afraid to go into the forest and get killed. So the best policy for us, if we really want to win this Galamsey fight, is the shoot to kill policy. Because the allegations are since the Mahama administration came, Galamsey has gone a notch higher. As to whether it's political allegation or whatever, we do not know. But then people are still doing Galamsey. The previous administration, 8 years, did not or could not even end Galamsey. And a government of just 2 months or 3 months cannot really do anything significant.
Yeah.
And we are told of the powerful...
But its initial actions would also show whether it can win this fight.
The only initial
if you are
action,
training people to now go and swim and fight people, and I'm not sure that
that one can really help in the fight against Galamsey.
If you have the judiciary who take a decision to let excavators go back to persons who did wrong, and it took the public to call them to order, then it doesn't look good for us. But let me bring in Selam because he's a lawyer, and his thoughts about the actions of this judge in, its initial ruling, and then quickly reversing his actions after what we all shouted about.
Well, I think it's an interesting incident. Of course, I mean, somebody who works in the court or who goes to the court, it is not unusual for a judge to set aside his own orders or ruling. It happens. And the law makes provision for that. They are not gods, they are not angels, they are not perfect. So they make mistakes. Indeed, the system itself has a way of correcting itself. So if you go the first one and you think there's an error, you may bring it to the attention of the judge. If it doesn't work, you could go on appeal. So the appellate process could deal with it. But where the judge suo motu or himself on his own sees that this I did was an error, or the information I was given based on which I made this order or give this ruling or decision was in error, it obviously means that the decision itself will be in error. So the correct thing to do is to set it aside. But this particular one is curious because the prosecutors and the court itself have questions to answer. The prosecutors know that it is not this court you take these people to. All right? They took these people to the court. That's not the court that they take them to. That's why the judge now said that he had no jurisdiction. Okay? If the judge also knew that for such matters, he has no jurisdiction, why did he assume jurisdiction and sit on the matter?
At the point. So when did he realize he didn't? After the backlash?
So that's what I'm saying, that the prosecutors and the court itself both have questions to answer. We need to drill down to understand what it is, especially in circumstances where we know or where we hear that these Galamseyers and their financiers are powerful and all of that. We need to drill down to understand what it is. So is the judge saying that it was after his decision that he realized, or somebody told him that no, mining issues, you do not have jurisdiction as a district court to deal with it. That's very curious to me. And the prosecutors, so that is the job you do. Is it a case that they were not given training, proper training on matters of Galamsey? And given the area we are talking about, Enchi, it's a place where we see a lot of these activities. So I'll be surprised if they were not trained on the Mining Act, the Minerals and Mining Act, and the parts which deal with crime. Given that there are not a lot of state prosecutors or state attorneys in those areas, and so the state will have to fall on police prosecutors because they do the work really. Police prosecutors. I expect that they should have been taken through this, or they should have been given training on this part of the law at least. We need to find out whether indeed they were given the training, and if they were given the training, why did they do this? Okay, maybe that wasn't why they went there. I do not know. Maybe they arrested the people. The people were in custody. 48 hours was elapsing, and they had to go and get an order to detain them lawfully. So if they went there that way, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And the judge decided to go on a frolic of his own to make orders to release the excavators to the accused, then that's a problem. So we need to investigate this. We need to know why the prosecutors went to the court. Did they go to the court because they were going to prosecute the matter? Because we've not heard enough about the what happened to the accused, whether they were admitted to bail. We don't know anything. We only heard the ruling. Maybe because that's what is most important in this matter. But let's get down to understand why they went to that court. Did they go there because they were going to start the matter? Why did the judge assume jurisdiction when he knew, or ought to have known, not that he knew, ought to have known that he did not have jurisdiction on the matter? These are issues we need to probe. Okay. The fight against Galamsey is a serious one. And we talked about the power of radio, etc. It is the power of the people. Justice emanates from the people. And it is exercised on behalf of the people by the judiciary. So that was what we saw. And it was good that the judge acted swiftly, because I don't understand why it should happen, because you were not supposed to do it. So why did you do it? Did you do it because you thought it was not going to come out, so that it would die in Enchi and nobody hears it and everybody runs away, goes away with the equipment? And you see, these guys, they are arranged. What's the name? Abudu, Amuzu, and all those people. They are small boys. Yeah, they are not the people.
The big guys.
They are not the big guys. The big guys are hiding in Accra, the capital cities, and sending these small boys. These these boys don't have what it takes to buy excavators. If they could buy excavators, they will not be in the mud and have pits collapsing on them and dying, etc. They are more or less laborers working for the kingpins. And it's the kingpins we must go after. So if you seize the excavators, the kingpins lose it.
Come.
Yes, if they don't even come, that's huge investment they've lost. They may not have the money to immediately buy another one. When you seize a lot of them, you would have been taking the oxygen out of their bodies. After a while, we will see that this will come down. I totally do not understand what the judge was looking at, or the magistrate was looking at before giving this order. But thankfully, he has set this aside and he has made some orders that the police and the forestry people should trace it and find. Of course, I agree with Kenashibe.
On him being self-charging,
it mustn't just go that way. It mustn't just go that way. We need to get to the bottom of it. And let's see what can happen. We really need to get to the bottom of it.
So we also have to follow up and see what has come of those excavators, whether they are found. If not, then we also trigger attention and ensure that this story, we cover it till the end. Okay, gentlemen, we'll move to the OSP causing the arrest of a journalist, Gordon Asari Bediako of Wuntumi, right? Over some alleged allegations he's said to have made. Now, he came out of that detention, which he described as unlawful or wrongful, and he is threatening to sue the OSP over wrongful detention. So, I mean, do you have the facts of the whole issue, why he was? We are told that there was a claim of...
I engaged him and as to how come he landed at the OSP's office. What I'm reliably informed that he hosts a show on Wuntumi Radio, and then he made some allegations against the OSP that the OSP had requested for a private jet to help him in his operations in his work, and some officials of the OSP heard those allegations, and so he was called by someone from the office that we want you to come over to the office so we can have a conversation. And he said that he was even driving within the periphery of the OSP's office.
So he drove there.
It would be easy to walk in and have that conversation. And then he said he drove in, and then some officials came to him. They took him to a room, and in the course of the conversation they said, they've arrested him. And so he was like, you called me for a conversation on this particular matter. And then according to him, he was asked to disclose his source. And he said that as a journalist, he's not supposed to disclose his source. And so whatever they want him to do, he will do. And so according to him, he wrote a statement, you know, on what has happened on his show. And then the OSP said, okay, if that's the case, you are going to be granted bail of 5 million cedis. And he was like, you know, how is this? So he said he called a few friends, you know, family members around who came in to sign the bail bond, and then he was released. After that, he said he's going to sue the ESP for unlawful detention. and I find the story very, very interesting. If anybody makes an allegation against the OSP, is it the OSP that's supposed to arrest the person or detain the person? I thought, or I think, you know, the police or the media commission should be the first, you know, port of call. And then from there, the CID or any other state agency is supposed to come in. But for the OSP himself or the office itself to detain him for making an allegation against the office, I find it a bit weird. And this is the first time I'm hearing that OSP has detained, you know, a journalist or a media person. I thought that office was established to look at corruption and corruption-related issues.
Well, the issue is related to corruption, isn't it?
It's an allegation.
An allegation around corruption.
I
think your question of whether which Salam would have to help us over the jurisdiction or whether it can, you know, detain or hold somebody when it's an issue to do with itself. Which Salam can help us.
I'm ignorant about that particular
but if the issue is related to corruption, which is it's one of the things it's dealing with, well, he has to deal with it. So let's seek the lawyer's opinion on this matter of jurisdiction, whether itself, if an accusation is made against my person, I am OSP, can I take action against that person? Or should I trigger with other security agencies to work on my behalf, but it's related to corruption?
Well, the mandate of the OSP is to deal with corruption and corruption-related matters. Yeah. To that extent, I would have thought that given that it was a matter raised on a media platform, they could have used the appropriate channels. The NMC is there. Worst case, you could go to court and say you've been defamed or something. Okay. But to detain the guy and I don't know the full story.
Yeah.
We're only hearing from from our friend Godna Biriako. Let's hear from the OSP. Maybe the OSP have something else to say that Gordon is not saying.
Yeah.
I mean, like
we always see that.
Yes. So, you know, even though we don't doubt what he's saying,
it is
two. And no, 3 sides.
It's too radical for me for the story to just be like this.
Yeah.
Of course, I spoke to Gordon on Eyewitness News, and I was surprised that was the story. So let's call on the OSP to tell us whether indeed they detained him, granted him bail, and all of that. Sometimes there could be some over-exuberant people in the office of the OSP wanting to do things.
We
need to understand what it is. Yeah. Maybe the SP himself is not aware. Maybe the big guys, they are not aware. Maybe some over-exuberant guys who don't even know the law did that. I do not know. Let's hear the SP speak. That is it because the gentleman made an allegation. That's why he was called, detained, and you know, it's not appropriate. We need to do things right. I don't think it's appropriate. Yes.
So we'll see what comes out of that. The OSP is yet to speak, so we hope they speak to also clear the air on exactly what happened. Let me take you. We have just a few minutes, but I would love for you to touch on 2 stories quickly, a minute each. One to do with the Ghana-US trade relations issues, 10% tariff slapped on Ghana. President Trump is doing, you know, so many things are happening there, and it's touching us here. That's one. And then, of course, the abolishment of the various levies. The focus can be on the E-levy, which is the most interest to most of us. So, Sammy, let me take your final words.
Well, as a promise, you know, fulfilled. The NDC in opposition promised to take E-levy out. In fact, all the 2 leading candidates promised to take, you know, E-levy out if they win the election. The NDC won the election. They promised to take it out. Indeed, it has. The party or the government has been able to fulfill that particular promise. A big relief to many Ghanaians and almost all of us who use mobile money or transact.
But I
or
thought
do
yesterday
business.
you said you tested by sending me some money.
I did, but the network was a bit disruptive, so so it didn't go. So I'll do it again tonight.
Chisel woman.
I'll do it again tonight. So it's good news, and kudos to President Mahama and the NDC for this major achievement. I'm sure they will find ways of looking at or filling the gap which the e-levy was filling. We are told about 6.4 billion cedis. I'm sure the finance minister will run out or come out with some policies and programs that will help us fill this particular gap. And on the US tariff, I support Donald Trump 100 and 200%. As what he's doing is just in local parlance, we say, do me, I do you. Other countries, impose. In Ghana, we impose taxes
but
and
every
levies.
Country imposes
yes, it's every country. And he's also implementing that. He feels that countries over the years have fed on US for a long time. Countries over the years have, been fleeting from the US. So it's about time we
all fleet from each other.
But for him, he feels that the US has become the mother for all, and everybody's eating from the US. So close the gap a bit. The only country which I believe is going to suffer most is China. But then it's also giving China an opportunity for them to also know that, okay, fine, forget US, come and do business with me. And the Chinese economy is growing every day. Yeah. And arguably is the biggest market in the world, aside the US. And so it's an advantage for China and some other emerging, countries, across the world. I've seen and heard reactions from other countries. The EU says they are going to retaliate. UK says they'll take it a state at a time. Yeah. Canada says it's going to retaliate big time and hit, the US big. We'll wait and see how it's going to go. For Ghana, I think our major export to the US is gold, crude, petroleum, and then cocoa beans. Okay. As at last year from the Ghana Statistical Service, our export was about 6.4, billion. And so if this particular 10% tariff comes in, we may do around, 7 or something. I feel that this is about time the countries who are going to suffer from these begin their homegrown solutions. Now produce in your country and chop in your country. Forget about exports.
You can't do everything. I mean, it should be moderate, but...
Well, Donald Trump wants to revamp the American economy. He feels that jobs are being exported, so... It's our time they bring it back.
We'll see how this global foreign policy...
And it's going to bring global, trade war.
Yeah.
We expect this to happen.
Salam, you have 2 minutes, one on the taxes and the other on Ghana-US.
Well, e-levy, betting, tax, emissions, etc. Promise made, promise kept. It's happened. I mean, you see, the e-levy thing, I think, when you are transferring a lot of money, that's when you feel
Jolly.
That's when you
I remember the day before, yesterday, I had to send her, and I was looking at the money, I was just complaining.
So it brings relief. E-levy, the way it came and all of that, the promises were made, and how Parliament dealt with it and all of that, it didn't make it a nice tax, you know. And to think that you give small money to, and I think there are things they could have done better. Raise the threshold. The 100 cedis was too small. Raise the threshold, make the percentage about 0.5. Those things to make it sweet. Yeah. Over time, you could increase it gradually, 0.5 then 1%, gradually, so that people wouldn't feel it. But we said it, they didn't hear that. And now, at some point, the two major parties in the lead up to the election were both promising to repeat it. I was speaking to one of them, what was his name, Dr. Stephen Amwa, and he was saying that he didn't think it was the right thing to do. The question then was, when you were telling us you were going to repeat it, what were you saying? But that's what it is. The betting tax, it's okay. But I think, like the way we've seen the sin taxes, a way to discourage people. I thought it would have been okay to reform or to mold character or attitudes or that kind of thing. But interestingly, the guys at the betting association or Ghana Sports Betting Association say it hasn't been so. Contrary to what we expected, the numbers actually went up. So if the numbers went up, is it that we hadn't reached the peak and so it was still growing? And so we hadn't reached where we to plateau and I don't know. But the numbers actually, from what he said and the data available to them, the numbers were growing, which meant that that approach was not useful. So if it was not useful, why then you keep it there and all of that? So yes, it's gone. Let's see how our country can do well. The U.S. trade relations after trade war, etc. I think Trump is looking out for Americans, doing what he thinks is best for Americans. What it means is that a lot of jobs perhaps will remain in America, or a lot of jobs will come to America. You see an American product and you are told that it was manufactured in another country, in China, in Vietnam, etc., before it's shipped to America. Before, it means that jobs have left the United States to areas which have cheap labor. Trump wants to stop that. What it also means for us is that some of our produce that we export to those countries will attract taxes. So those produce or products will become a bit more expensive in those countries, discouraging them from buying our produce. And what it will mean is that our manufacturing may suffer, and then the people in those areas, in the US, for example, may begin to look out for substitute goods, which is good for them, but which may not be good for us. We have to look within. We have to work on the Africa Continental Free Trade area properly. We have to begin to trade amongst ourselves. We have to diversify. We have to start looking at other markets. Fortunately, it's just the US. We have, the UAE, we have Switzerland, we have EU, we have a lot of other China, India, and all of those places. Let's begin to diversify. Let our diplomats also begin to engage more with the US and see what respite we can get, if any at all.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again. Salam Adonu, thank you. Samiri Afi, thank you. I am Vivian Lokko, and thank you to you for also watching us. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.